you already decided. That reopening is the entire problem. It isn't discipline you're missing. You have discipline. You've done hard things. You'll do hard things again. What you don't have is a way to stop the vote from being retaken every single morning. The samurai had no word for motivation, not because they were tougher, because they'd removed the thing motivation is supposed to fix. Here's what almost everyone gets wrong about discipline. You think the failure happens at the moment of action, the moment you don't get up, don't start, don't go. It doesn't. By then, it's already over. The failure happened earlier, in a quiet renegotiation you probably didn't notice. Do I still want this? And the answer arrives from a version of you who is tired, warm, and has excellent arguments. That version wins because it gets a vote it was never supposed to have. Here's what makes this worse than it sounds. That negotiation doesn't feel like weakness while it's happening. It feels like thinking, reassessing, being sensible about your energy. Every one of those framings is the same event wearing better clothes. Modern advice tells you to want it more. Find your why. Visualize the outcome. All of it aims at winning the vote, and none of it asks why a vote is happening at all. Ask 100 people why they didn't do the thing, and almost all of them describe a feeling. Almost none describe a moment. But there was a moment. There always is. It's the 2 or 3 seconds where a settled thing quietly became an open question again, and it passes so fast you'd swear it never happened. A samurai preparing for a duel he might not survive was not managing his enthusiasm. A different question was being answered, and it had been answered days earlier. That's the distinction that matters. Kokorogamae isn't resolved summoned in the moment. It's a stance adopted in advance, so that the moment has nothing left to decide. The samurai did not wake up and ask whether to train. Training was not a live question. It had been settled structurally, and what remained was only execution. This is the layer modern discipline advice never touches. Everyone optimizes the moment of action. Almost nobody closes the decision. In 1645, a week before his death, Miyamoto Musashi wrote 21 precepts in a document now called the Dokkodo, the way of walking alone. It was written in a cave at Reigando, where he had withdrawn to finish his other manuscript. The striking thing about the Dokkodo is what it contains almost none of. There is no encouragement, no affirmation, no language about feeling ready, feeling strong, or wanting it enough. The precepts are almost entirely renunciations, things settled in advance and removed from consideration. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Do not act on half-formed thoughts. Do not regret what has been done. Each one closes a category of decision permanently, so it cannot be reopened under pressure. The document reads less like inspiration and more like a set of standing orders, written by a man who understood that the mind in difficulty is an unreliable negotiator, and who had removed its ability to negotiate. 400 years later, a psychologist named Peter Gollwitzer described what appears to be the same mechanism and called it implementation intention. The finding? People who specify in advance exactly when, where, and how they will act follow through substantially more often than people who merely intend to. A meta-analysis of 94 studies found a medium to large effect, one of the more durable results in behavior change research. The mechanism is not extra willpower. It is the removal of the moment where willpower would have been required. If this is landing, if you recognize your own mornings in any of it, the useful thing you can do right now is tap like. It genuinely changes whether this reaches anyone else. It costs nothing. And if you're anything like the person this video is about, you'll mean to and then forget. So, now, before Rule 2, the second concept is where this gets uncomfortable. It's a word Japanese-American families used heavily to describe how they carried themselves through wartime internment. That's the register it belongs to, not gritting your teeth through a workout. carrying something heavy without letting it deform you. Here's why it matters for discipline, and it's not what you'd expect. Gaman is not about tolerating more pain. It's about decoupling, separating the difficulty of a thing from the question of whether you'll do it. Most people treat difficulty as information. It's hard, therefore, maybe it's wrong. Maybe today isn't the day. Maybe I should reconsider. Gaman treats difficulty as weather. Present, real, unpleasant, and completely irrelevant to what was already decided. Which raises an obvious objection. Isn't that just suppression? Isn't ignoring how you feel exactly how people burn out? No, and the distinction is sharp. Suppression is pretending the difficulty isn't there. Gaman is the opposite. It requires you to feel it fully and accurately, and simply denies it authority over a decision it was never party to. Nothing gets swallowed. The weight stays exactly as heavy as it is. The failure mode people call burnout usually isn't from enduring too much. It's from enduring while also arguing about whether to endure, paying the cost twice, once in the doing and once in the negotiating. You don't need the difficulty to go away. You need it to stop having a vote. And there's a tell for whether you've managed it. Watch what you say to yourself mid-effort. If the sentence is some version of, "Should I be doing this?" the vote is still open. If it's some version of, "This is hard," the vote is closed and you're simply reporting the weather. Same discomfort, two completely different states. One of them you finish. Here's the strange part. People who train this report that the difficulty doesn't shrink at all. What shrinks is the exhaustion around it, the constant low-level effort of relitigating something you already knew you were going to do. That relitigation turns out to be most of what we call